All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to be looking at some of those habits that can seem a little, well, a little odd. But what's fascinating is that psychology suggests these behaviors might actually be linked to high intelligence. We're talking about things that look strange from the outside, but for a really sharp mind, they often serve a very specific and very important purpose.
I mean, come on, who hasn't? Maybe it's the way you pace when you're thinking, or how you have to have your desk set up just so. We all have our little quirks. But what if those quirks aren't just random? What if they're actually clues about how your brain is wired to work?
And that right there is the big idea we're diving into. Certain habits, the ones that often get misunderstood, might actually be these sophisticated mental tools. They might look strange to everybody else, but for the person doing them, they can be an incredibly effective way to think, focus, and solve problems.
So let's just totally reframe this. For the next few minutes, we're not going to see these behaviors as just oddities. Instead, we're going to look at them as potential clues to a mind that processes the world in a deeper, maybe more complex way.
Our first stop, it's right inside the mind itself. We're going to explore the habits that are all about our internal thought processes, those private conversations and mental calculations that are happening behind the scenes all the time. And in this section, we're going to focus on two key habits that really pull back the curtain on a very complex inner world.
Yup, you guessed it, talking to yourself. Look, we all know it's often seen as a little strange, right? But for highly intelligent people, it can be an incredibly powerful tool for getting some clarity. This isn't just random muttering, it's more like a structured, quiet conversation with yourself to puzzle through a problem.
And there's actually a scientific term for why this works. It's called verbal reasoning. By taking these abstract thoughts floating around in your head and turning them into concrete words, even if you just whisper them, your brain can organize those complex ideas and find solutions way more efficiently. It's pretty cool.
And this quote just nails it. It's not a sign that you're distracted, it's a sign of intense focus. It's a little trick the brain uses to cut through all the noise and make sharper, more logical decisions.
Okay, the second habit here can look, from the outside, like someone is just completely indecisive. But in reality, it's often a form of logical overthinking. Now, this is different from anxiety, which kind of just spins in circles. This is a methodical, step-by-step analysis with a very clear goal in mind. This is all driven by something called cognitive complexity. It's the mind's natural ability to see a situation from a bunch of different angles, to process a huge number of details, potential outcomes, and hidden possibilities that most people might just gloss over. See, the goal here isn't to get stuck, it's to be thorough. Their brain is basically running all these tiny simulations to gather more information, all to make sure that the absolute best possible choice is made. So it's not a failure to act, it's a strategic pause.
Okay, let's switch gears. Next up, we're looking at how highly intelligent minds manage their most valuable resource, their mental energy. This whole section is about the efficiency of focus and how attention gets dished out with incredible precision. And here is a classic example. You've probably seen this. You walk by someone's desk and it looks like a complete disaster zone. But then you see their digital file system, and it is a work of art, a masterpiece of perfect structure. This isn't a contradiction. It's a priority system at work. Psychologists call this selective organization. And really, it's a ruthless kind of mental efficiency. The high IQ mind just instinctively decides what's worth the energy to organize and what simply isn't. So that physical clutter on the desk might get totally ignored because it doesn't really affect the real work, which is happening in that beautifully organized digital space.
And this same idea of prioritizing energy also applies to how they learn about new things. It can seem weird. Someone dives headfirst into a subject with this intense focus for a week or a month, and then they just drop it and move on. That's not a short attention span. That's the mind's powerful curiosity system demanding to be fed.
And there's a fascinating reason for this deep in our brains. We have a strong curiosity system where learning something new actually triggers a dopamine reward. It feels good. So that creates this powerful drive to just absorb everything about a topic until that curiosity is satisfied. And then the brain's ready to go find the next new interesting thing.
This constant drive for depth also explains our next habit, a real dislike for small talk. I mean, for a brain that's wired to look for complexity and new ideas, surface-level chit-chat about the weather isn't just boring. It actually costs a lot of mental energy without giving anything back. It doesn't satisfy that core need for substance. And this is such a key observation. It's not that these people are antisocial. They can be super quiet and reserved one minute, But as soon as the conversation shifts to something complex or fascinating, they just light up. They become the most engaged person in the entire room.
Our final habit brings us to the idea of solitude. But this is a very specific kind of solitude, one that's actively chosen. It's not about being lonely. It's about tapping into some profound cognitive benefits.
So you might see someone who loves to take long walks all by themselves and assume they're avoiding people. But the reality is, they're often seeking a state of mind. Walking is known to activate the brain's creative and problem-solving centers, and being alone gets rid of all the distractions, letting them enter this really deep state of thought. So we've looked at a handful of different habits that might seem a little weird on the surface. Now let's connect the dots and see the bigger picture that's starting to emerge here.
So here they are again. We had the internal tools, like talking to yourself and logical overthinking. Then the efficiency strategies, like selective organization and avoiding small talk. And finally, the focus techniques, like those deep obsessions and finding solitude. Each and every one of them, as we've seen, is actually a strategy.
And the common thread that ties all of these habits together is a mind that is fundamentally built for depth, for efficiency, and for complexity. Every single weird habit is really just a tool to help that kind of mind operate at its absolute best. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We all have our quirks, right? But maybe it's time to ask yourself, what if that habit you've always thought was a little strange is actually your brain's unique way of being brilliant?